Captain America: The First Avenger takes place during World War II and follows a young man named Steve Rogers who desires to do his part by joining the army. However, he's always held back because of his small physical stature. Eventually, he is given his chance by taking part in an experimental program that turns him into a super soldier with increased strength and the symbol of patriotism known as Captain America. Later, he goes on missions to stop the rise of a Nazi subdivision, Hydra, led by the villainous Red Skull. Similar to Thor, Captain America is a different direction for this franchise. All the other films up until this point took place during the present day. This one is a period piece. Whereas Thor transported you to a different place, this film transports you to a different time period, which this film captures very well. Mostly because of a more noticeable color palette. It's able to vary throughout the film, have cooler, duller colors to convey the bleakness of war, while being more vibrant during the montage that shows Captain America being used to promote the war effort. What's really compelling and carries the whole story on its shoulders is the character of Steve Rogers. We all love Tony Stark from Iron Man, but in all honesty, he's a snarky jerk that needs to go on a character arc to become a better person, or at least slightly better than he was before. What I appreciate about Steve Rogers is that he starts out with a straight moral compass. He's the underdog who, despite being this small person, has a big heart and wants to devote himself to the greater good. The scene that best illustrates this is when there's that fake grenade, and while everyone else runs away, Steve throws himself on top of it to protect those around him. It's impossible not to root for a character like that. In addition, you have these great side characters as well. Colonel Chester Phillips, played by Tommy Lee Jones, steals every scene that he's in with absolute hilarity.
Breaking in the candidates, that's good. Get your ass up out of that dirt and stand in that line of attention until somebody comes tells you what to do.
Yes, sir.
Go get him.
I'm not kissing you.
Agent Peggy Carter is a badass female character that knows how to take care of herself.
You gonna get a rassa? Because I got a few moves I know you'll like.
That's all we've got.
You quite finished, Mr. Stark? I'm sure the captain has some unfinished business.
What do you think?
Yes, I think it works.
But she also has a sweet dynamic with Steve Rogers, because Steve is one of the only men in her life that sees her as a person, not an object. And this leads to emotion when Steve has to crash the plane at the end and she realizes that she may never find someone as great as him ever again.
We'll have the band play something slow.
I'd hate to step on your...
Steve? Steve?
Also, I enjoy it when films explore the past within a franchise's continuity. So I liked seeing a younger Howard Stark, especially since I can definitely see now where Tony gets his ladies' man persona.
Agent Carter, if we're not in too much of a hurry, I thought we could stop off in Lucerne for a late-night fondue.
So are you two? Do you... fondue?
As can be expected from Marvel, the action sequences are all well made. There's this exciting sequence where Steve chases a spy through the streets of New York. No uniform, no shield, just his new physicality. Also part of the final battle where Steve jumps onto a moving plane and tries to hold on. These scenes are directed properly and they just stand out in your mind. Finally, the first half of the film is a great origin story that purposefully takes its time setting up the character of Captain America, as well as the patriotic symbol. What makes it special is that it doesn't try to modernize his story. We've gotten quite a few superhero films that deconstruct heroes, showing all their faults to relate them to current issues. Similar to how Steve himself is a classic do-gooding hero The film itself touches on classic themes of heroism.
This is why you were chosen. Because a strong man who has known power all his life may lose respect for that power. But a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion.
As Captain America is used for propaganda, giving performances on stage and appearing in films you get to see, you see the traditional patriotism of World War II.
Each one you buy is a bullet in the barrel of your best guy's gun.
In general, that first half is a carefully constructed character study that delivers a proper version of the superhero, especially when compared to previous iterations. Unfortunately, the second half reveals the biggest issue. As purposefully paced as this first half was, the second feels like it's rushing all the way until it gets to the credits. After Steve rescues all those people, including his friend Bucky, from the Hydra Fortress and returns to base with them, you're given this montage of Cap and crew taking out various Hydra forces. One problem with this is that at a certain point the film wants you to buy into this team dynamic that Steve has with a group of soldiers. All the film gives you to get invested in it is that montage, but it's action heavy. There really is no true scene that allows you to experience this team relationship. I think that the addition of Steve's friend Bucky was also a bit compromised by this. Now, when they are together, Chris Evans and Sebastian Stan do have chemistry, and you get to see that in later films. But the way they use Bucky is odd to me in this film. He's introduced during the beginning of the film, and then he's gone for a large chunk until he's brought back a few minutes before his death. I just think that's a very clunky way to incorporate a character into a story, and it detracts from the emotion of that train scene. Because it's difficult for me to get invested in a character when they're not given enough screen time, and when they start to get more attention in the story, they're just killed off suddenly. The simple fact that the film feels rushed after the main piece of the origin story reveals something on its own. The final minutes where Steve wakes up in present-day New York and is disoriented by everything around him, that sounds like an interesting idea. But it's immediately watered down as soon as Nick Fury shows up, and we're reminded once again that there's going to be an Avengers film. If that isn't enough, the post-credits scene, there's not even a post-credit scene. It's literally an ad, like a short commercial for the Avengers film.
Trying to get me back in the world?
Trying to save it. You think you're the only hero in the world? Gentlemen, you're up.
This, I feel, as I was watching it, was Marvel Studios showing their true colors. They were really only interested in setting up Steve Rogers as Captain America. During the scene when Steve is walking back to camp with those soldiers, he feels like he's completely become that character. I noticed that it's right after that point in the film that the pacing just starts feeling rushed. And like I've talked about with other films in this franchise, I think Iron Man 2 was the other culprit as far as this, is that one of the biggest movie sins, in my mind anyway, is when the filmmakers get so preoccupied with a future project that they forget to put more effort into the current one. Last thing for the negatives, the villain was disappointing. From what I know, Red Skull is an important character in Captain America lore. You have Hugo Weaving, Agent Smith himself.
As you can see, we've had our eye on you for some time now, Mr. Anderson. It seems that you've been living two lives.
But there's nothing remarkable about the performance or character. Red Skull just feels like a typical Nazi character that you find in a lot of World War II films.
Tomorrow, Hydra will stand master of the world, born to victory on the wings of the Valkyrie. Our enemy's weapons will be powerless against us. If they shoot down one plane, hundreds more will rain fire upon them.
He doesn't even have that many interactions with the hero until, say, like the third act. He just becomes one of those forgettable villains that the MCU is infamous for. Negatives aside, I do think that this is a very good film. It's just held from greatness because of some second and third act issues. I'm going to give Captain America: The First Avenger a B+. Guys, stay tuned for my review of The Avengers coming very soon. I'll see you then.